No such torment has ever transpired previously in history. The bizarre tortures and the freakish, brutal methods invented by the depraved, perverted murderers solely for the suffering of Israel are unprecedented and unparalleled. May God have mercy upon us and save us from their hands in the blink of an eye. These shocking words were written in the depths of hell, Warsaw Ghetto, in the summer of 1942 by Rabbi Shapira, the fabled Piaseczner Rebbe, who, together with hundreds of thousands of Polish Jews, had been forced into the ghetto by the Nazis less than a year earlier. At its peak, the Warsaw Ghetto held over 400,000 Jews crammed into just 1.3 square miles. The overcrowding led to catastrophic conditions, extreme poverty, widespread disease and starvation. But worse was yet to come. Between July and September 1942, 265,000 ghetto residents were deported to Treblinka for extermination, while another 35,000 were viciously murdered in the ghetto. In April 1943, Jewish resistance fighters staged the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the most significant act of Jewish resistance during the Holocaust. The fighters held out against the Nazis for a month before being brutally crushed. The remaining inhabitants were then dispatched to their deaths, including Rav Shapira, who perished at Travniki on November 3rd, 1943, during the infamous Operation Harvest Festival, when the Nazis eliminated all remaining Jewish laborers in the Lublin district. Rav Shapira wasn't just any rabbi. He was a spiritual firebrand and a towering figure of resilience, even when facing the unthinkable horrors of Nazi brutality. He gave weekly speeches in the ghetto about faith, resilience, and divine love, never allowing himself to be crushed by fear and despair. "With what can someone strengthen themselves?" he said. "At least a little bit, so long as salvation has not appeared. And with what can the spirit be elevated? Even the tiniest bit, while being crushed and broken like this. Firstly, with prayer, and with faith that God would never utterly reject his children. It cannot be possible that he would abandon us in such mortal danger as we are now facing for his blessed name's sake. Surely he will have mercy immediately and rescue us in the blink of an eye." Rav Shapira's words reflected the pain of the moment, but they also exuded unwavering hope. Each week he recorded his speeches on scraps of paper, hoping to publish them once the horrors ended. Though Rav Shapira was murdered, miraculously, his teachings survived the Holocaust, thanks to the Oneg Shabbos group, who preserved documents and testimonies from the Warsaw Ghetto by burying them underground in milk urns in early 1943 under the leadership of the historian Emanuel Ringelblum, who was discovered in hiding and murdered himself in 1944. Rav Shapira's manuscripts were found after the war. They eventually reached Baruch Dubdovani, a Polish-born religious Zionist activist whose family had been followers of the Shapira Hasidic dynasty. Now, in 1960, he published Rav Shapira's work in a book titled Eish Kodesh, Sacred Fire. Although Rav Shapira's words were not meant to inspire future generations necessarily, he composed them as a direct response to the crisis he and those around him were facing in real time. Their preservation has ensured that his faith, resilience, and spiritual defiance continue on as a legacy, speaking powerfully to anyone struggling with suffering and hardship. They remind us that even in life's darkest moments, the human soul can find strength and connection to the divine, trusting that good times will follow bad. This past year, in the wake of October 7th and all that has transpired since, I have found myself returning to Rav Shapira's teachings repeatedly. In particular, that first quote haunts me. He seems to be describing the horrific events of October 7th with vivid clarity and echo from Jewish history. But I have also been inspired by Rav Shapira's faith. When everything seemed dark this year, as Israel reeled from unimaginable horrors and went to war, And as Jews around the world felt vulnerable and under attack, Rav Shapira's unshakable faith became my anchor. Rav Shapira never allowed moments of pain and confusion to turn into a crisis of faith, and I found strength in his incredible resolve. We have all struggled this year, when even victories, whether against Hamas in Gaza or anti-Semitic mobs on college campuses, have been twisted into weapons to attack us. Thankfully, Rav Shapira's model of faith provided a firm foundation for me to stand on. His resilience reminded me that even when we don't understand the world's darkness, God is still present, shaping a future redemption. Just as the Nazis were ultimately brought down, despite their early victories and seeming dominance, so too will the enemies of Israel today, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iran, meet the same fate. Rav Shapira's words remind us that evil's apparent success is always temporary and its defeat inevitable. We stand today as witnesses to the unraveling of their power, knowing that just as the Jewish people survived then, we will rise again now, stronger than before. Tragically, Rav Shapira did not live to witness the fall of the Nazis, but his faith was not misplaced. The Nazis were ultimately defeated, and the Jewish people, whom they sought to annihilate, rose from the ashes of Europe to rebuild their lives, not just in the newly founded state of Israel, but in vibrant, thriving communities around the world. The Jewish spirit was not broken. It came back, stronger, fortified with faith and determination. And today, as we celebrate a new Jewish year and reflect on the past year, we can see that our faith was not in vain. Though we have endured profound loss and faced the painful reality of rising hatred against Israel and Jews across the globe, we are also witnessing the collapse of our enemies, their plans and strength unraveling before our eyes. Hamas, who heinously butchered our people and then celebrated our grief, has been decimated and its leaders are dead. Hezbollah is weakened, its leadership gone, and its threats subdued. Iran, the puppet master behind this indescribable evil, scrambles to defend itself against the inevitable. Like Hitler in the final days in Berlin, they know that their time is coming. And so, as we continue to navigate these turbulent times, Rav Shapira's words resonate across the decades with renewed significance. Here is what he said: God's love and justice are concealed during times of suffering, but they are never absent. When the wicked are allowed to succeed, it is only temporary, for their destruction is imminent. The righteous must hold on to this truth, for in the end we will see God's hand clearly, and his justice will be revealed in all its might. Even if you are broken and oppressed, you must nevertheless be sincere and whole. Take strength in God because you know that God is with you in your suffering. Do not attempt to project into the future saying, I cannot see an end to the darkness. Rather, simply accept whatever happens to you, and then you will be with God and your salvation will draw close. These words are as true today as when Rav Shapira first spoke them. Though the challenges we face are immense, our faith must remain firm. Time and again we have experienced God's presence, even in our darkest hours, leading us toward a brighter future. The Nazis were defeated, and today's enemies will also fall. And when that day comes, the Jewish people, resilient and steadfast, will rise stronger than ever. We have overcome destruction before, and with unwavering faith we will meet the challenges ahead, knowing that our adversaries will be vanquished and the Jewish people will stand tall and strong.